Uh, Welcome to WTF
I'm
the
Aadi
Kilometer.
S.
My name is Terrence Lau,
Oh, I'm Jimmy Cornell.
and today's topic is American intervention on foreign affairs. So, American intervention in foreign affairs has always been a subject of heated debate. It's complicated, messy, and it can be tragic. But today, we're going to justify why the US had reasons, compelling ones, to go into Somalia during the 1990s. To really understand this, we have to start by looking at the broader context of American intervention after World War II. So why did the US even begin stepping into the affairs of other nations? A big reason for that is because we felt that, well, the United States felt that it had a responsibility and a desire to exert influence over global events as it emerged as one of the world's superpowers. With so much of the early US foreign policy focused on containing communism during the Cold War, that the nature of US interventions evolved as the world entered post-Cold War era. By the early 1990s, the U.S. was focused on the idea of humanitarian aid and intervention that way. The U.S. started to take action in places not because of immediate national security concerns, but because of accused or alleged human rights violations, civil wars, and humanitarian crises. This is where Somalia comes in. And the idea was that as one of the most, if not the most powerful and wealthy nation in the world, the U.S. was responsible in intervening in these large situations where large-scale suffering was happening. Um, so let's look at Somalia. After the collapse of the Somali government in 1991, the country fell into a civil war, and this was because of a power vacuum left by the ousting of a dictator, with numerous factions and warlords vying for control. One of the most prominent was Mohammed Aidid, whose faction controlled much of the capital, Mogadishu, and these warlords often would fight over resources, supplies, territory. But they had they had a lot of control over the food and humanitarian aid that was being sent from the United Nations at the time. This, coupled with drought, that led to a massive famine. Hundreds of thousands of people died of starvation and disease. And even as millions more faced death, aid was still being intercepted. And the United States felt that it had to work together with the United Nations to intervene and provide aid for Somali citizens in need. And this is where a mission takes a darker turn during the Battle of Mogadishu in 1993. So,
And
Audie, let's hear you.
hmm?
Let's hear you.
Oh, got it. Yep. So honestly, I really love this stance from the United States. It paints us a really good picture. I think we're the biggest, we're the baddest, and when you look at humanitarian aid specifically, when you are looking at, somewhere like Somalia, where yes, there's a lot of famine, you're coming off of a an overthrown regime. You have a lot of like intertwined factions, a lot of warlords, a lot of different clans, fighting for territory. Like when people when bombs, right? When bombs and gunfire just become white noise to the citizens of your country, that's not a good thing. And I think that's when the US steps in. And I think it's just a great thing that the government was trying to do, even if it didn't work out exactly because of Somalian militia or whatever it may be. I think it's still a great position to take, and I think it reflects really well on the U.S. to try and essentially stop these countries from destroying themselves. Jimmy?
Yeah, I completely agree. Or the as in the case for Somalia, yeah, the U.S. ta takes like a very large risk. Um, like whether this intervention is actually close to almost imperialism, even. Like, I mean, imperialism is strong word, but I wouldn't say the US does it, but I feel like they kind of are on like the line of doing it in some ways. Like if they in some sections or parts of the battle, they operate in more so self-interest, rather than their original goal of, well, capturing Adid and providing humanitarian work.
I
And
like
then,
that. That's a really important question when you're talking about these American interventions. So imperialism at its core is about, one country dominating or exerting dominance over another, often through, I guess, military or political power. And I feel like as, the missions progressed, it might have started out as aid, or the United States might have used the excuse of aid, but they began targeting the warlords, saying, "Oh, they're stealing food, whatever." And then it became the mission to sort of restore a central government. And so, I mean, you can look at it from, I guess, the entire context and see, the United States kept adding excuses to try and justify more and more military action. So I guess maybe they do cross the line, but at the same time, the truth is the warlords were stealing food, and they were I guess, destroying the lives of many of the citizens, and that's just not good. All right.
what, whether the U.S. did it in a good way or not, it definitely, I believe, uh, provided impact. So, like, humanitarian work could be done in the future, or it would temporarily stop in some way. But
You're right. I
yeah,
feel like it did bring eyes onto the situation. I mean, whether for better or worse, it did show what was going on in Somalia and what exactly the US and the UN could do about it, or at least attempt to try and help and do about it.
I believe the U.S. government actually learned a lot from this Battle of Mogadishu. Um, there's a lot of stuff, both politically and more military side, but some things would like include the importance of clear objectives and any sort of really exit strategies. In this battle, like the U.S. government realized that any sort of military intervention has to be defined. In Somalia, they had, like you said, in Somalia, there was the original mission for humanitarian work and to capture Adid. However, that more so shifted with U.S. involvement, kind of uh, leading to their own long-term goals. And then,
Yeah, and I think after the oh, sorry, we keep going. Sorry.
no, you could keep going. You
All
go.
right, thank you. I think that after this, the United States was a lot more careful about committing long term into these interventions. Um, they kept making up as they went on, but in the future they would usually have a massive reason, as we'll see with Bush in Iraq. And there's also must be a sort of well-defined exit strategy. The United States kind of just went in, did what they wanted, and like left without having a plan or having an idea of what could happen if they left. And I think that a successful intervention requires a lot more careful planning and coordination and a realistic understanding of the mission.
100%.
Yeah, you're very much right. That's a huge lesson learned from this situation that they didn't really have too much of an extraction plan, and that obviously resulted in many lives lost on both sides. So just making sure that you can, because at the end of the day, no one really wants war. Even the US when they came in, right? They did it purely that their intentions originally was to help Somalia, right? Or one of the intentions at least. So
Hmm.
I think it's in the best interest, right, to make sure we avoid war and to make sure that there is an extraction plan, to make sure that there's not a lot of friction when entering and leaving these states.
All right, that's enough for this. Next up, we're gonna have a special segment with a soldier who participated in the battle coming out, and we're gonna interview him. Me and Aadi are gonna interview him. All right, But before that, I would like to thank one of today's sponsors, McDonald's. That's right. Whether you're on the go, listening to our podcast, or just craving those world famous fries, McDonald's has you covered. We have some big news, folks. The McRib is back. You heard it right. The smoky, saucy, delicious sandwich that fans wait all year for has returned for a limited time. So what are you waiting for? Head to your nearest McDonald's and treat yourself to an early Christmas gift with a McRib. Order now online using our code WTF Kilometers. That's WTF KILOMETERS, all caps, to get a free medium fries and drink with your order. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Gotta love McDonald's. Man,
Love
Gotta
it.
love McDonald's.
of
Really
course.
good.
All right. So, welcome back. We have our soldier here. He will
Mhm.
remain anonymous, as he has requested so. We will be asking several questions. First is, what was your initial impression of Somalia?
Yeah. Um, this was a while ago. Somalia, at the time I was 18 years old, but at the time it was kind of how I expected. I, I had the impression that most of Africa was kind of a savanna, mostly desert and poorly built houses. And in the case for Somalia, it was mostly and unfortunately true. Uh, Dust-filled streets and a lot of destroyed buildings, actually. The city looked in desperation. I probably, with also a lot of other soldiers, felt bad. Like the city was in almost ruins, struggling with almost every matter possible. Not only that, but the tension was also constantly high. Like you never felt safe even when you're carrying full gear and like multiple weapons.
That's terrifying stuff, to be honest with you, sir. But can you speak on kind of when you get there, the privilege that we have as American born citizens, and can you talk about how its stuff isn't really enjoyed quite as nicely as it is in the States when you get to somewhere like Somalia?
Yeah, of course. Life, well, in a base outside of your home country, it's in the case of Somalia, it was not amazing. It's pretty monotonous, but also kind of tense. Um, I would say it might be similar to other US stations or across the world, but I could not say for certain. Um, but basically every day it was just training, cleaning gear, and just preparing for our missions. There was almost no downtime for any personal life or any sort of thing for freedom, other than talking with your fellow army men. And the only nice thing that there really was for that, other than talking with your fellow army men, was communication back to home, whether it was like writing letters, which was mostly that. It was not fast or effective in any way, but it was nice to write back to my family when I had a good break. And even if they weren't able to read it, it was really, really motivating. And yeah,
All
the
right. Oh, sorry. Keep going.
yeah,
Keep going.
the rest of the soldiers were great too, as I stated. They they were my family at the time. They became my family.
All right. Well, that's very interesting to hear. So you were there during the Battle of Mogadishu. Could you give us a quick rundown on what happened? Like what went wrong? Like what it was supposed to be about, and how did you guys come out of it?
Yeah, so I believe it started as a minor communication issues, multiple across radios from the Rangers down to the D-boys all the way to people back at base or whatever. It was manageable issues though, but the main reason everything fell apart was our Black Hawk helicopter going down. It was shot down by an RPG that completely changed the entire rest of the mission. Our mission was supposed to be an hour in and out of Mogadishu, just capturing the Somali warlord Aidid and providing humanitarian work. However, this horrible uh, incident, our mission turned into 14-hour mission, staying overnight. Um, so much went wrong from that point on. Second helicopter going down, a lot of navigational issues, and a lot of soldiers just really got injured, and too many even died. It was pretty bad.
Okay. What was the most terrifying part that you experienced, sir?
I would definitely say for sure it was seeing the first Black Hawk helicopter go down. A lot of the soldiers probably felt the same way and even saw it go down. It was it almost fell in slow motion. Like you could see the explosion from the RPG and debris fly off everywhere. The chopper went down. I felt I was staring at it for at least a minute before it hit the ground. And then it was just utter chaos on the radios. Uh, it was terrifying, honestly. One of our huge advantages just shot down not too long into the mission either.
That's must have been a surreal experience there. Wow. So how is the battle, and I guess that moment specifically, affected you post-war slash back at home? Right. I'm sure you've thought about it. I'm sure there's maybe some memories. Just wondering how has it changed you?
Yes. Physically, well, I'm home. Mentally, not entirely. I felt I lost a lot of parts of myself, or lost a lot of stuff that I can't get back while there. I wouldn't necessarily say parts of me were lost there. It's changed me a lot. Um, like for one, my innocence of whatever I had when I was 18 years old, it was pretty much all gone since then. All the soldiers I got to know who died there, all connections lost with them. I couldn't shake away any of those memories, and it took me a while to reconcile with everything that happened.
hmm Yeah, heartbreaking stuff. What lessons do you think the U.S. government learned from the Battle of Mogadishu?
Yeah, the Battle of Mogadishu taught some rough lessons that we needed to learn that helped us a lot in the future. It showed underestimating an enemy can and will lead to disaster. Underestimating a mission itself and the preparation, which has caused chaos in everything, if everything or anything goes wrong. There needs to be backups, and that was something that we didn't have a lot of in our battle. We didn't expect as much resistance as it was, well, the country was, or at least Mogadishu was pretty much in ruins. So we didn't expect much resistance, and our lack of really any sort of reinforcements or armored vehicles also severely hurt us. It also, it definitely highlights politically what can happen involving conflicts when strategy and I think importantly, public support is not there. Like a lot of people don't even know this battle happened. And then I think this battle almost becomes a symbol of how messy and tragic modern urban warfare can get.
Well, thank you for coming on our show today.
And
And
on behalf of all Americans, thank you for your service, sir.
yes, thank you
And
for your
thank you,
service,
yeah,
sir.
thank you for being here. I know it must have been very hard to revisit tough times, but we very much thank you for uh, taking us through this informative journey.
My pleasure. It was nice to talk about it.
All right, next up, we're going to have a small segment with the viewpoint of a Somali citizen this time. All right. But before that, a sponsored message. Do you want to grow up, be a man, learn what a kilometer is? That's right. Our second sponsor today, the U.S. Army, will be there to help you. Imagine the adventure, the challenge, and the purpose of your mission as you gain skills that will last you a lifetime. The Army is here to help you build your future. College? Covered. Leadership skills? Mastered. Friendships? Forged in the fire of battle. And the best part, you can start today, right out of high school. So to all the dreamers, the doers, and those who see the world and think, I can do more, the Army wants you. Step up, stand out, and show the world what you're made of. Visit goarmy.com, that's GOARMY.com, or any nearby recruitment center to start today. All right. Now, welcome back again. This time it's gonna be me and Jimmy. We're gonna be interviewing a Somali citizen. He is 48 years old. He was 17 at the time, and he moved to the United States in 2004. He too has chosen to stay anonymous, maybe because of safety. There's a lot of reasons why. So welcome. We're gonna call you Jim
Of
for now,
course.
all right? Welcome, Jim.
Thank you so much, boys, for having me.
All
Right.
right.
Yes, let's
So
get to it.
the first question I want to ask is, what was the atmosphere in the city leading up to the battle? Like, how was life in Mogadishu, like times before the battle?
Oh boy, tough times, tough times. So first of all, there was never peace in Somalia. There wasn't. Somalia was a land of constant war and suffering, essentially. At 17, I'd already seen so much wrong with the world, so much injustice, and after coming to peace with Ethiopia in 1988, I want to say, yes, after coming to peace with Ethiopia, did Somalia. I thought I had seen the worst of it. I thought the worst was over behind us. But after the overthrowing of our president, there was an immense there was an immense power struggle, and the country was at war with itself, and the power vacuum that he left behind led to an intense violence between clan warlords. Uh, the streets were torn apart, bit by bit. My family was fortunate enough to have made it through, but when that battle began, the whole city shook to its core, and helicopters were roaring overhead, bullets were flying everywhere, and explosions shook us to the ground. Outside, it was chaos, the screams, smokes, bodies in the streets. No one was safe. We didn't care about the politics of it all. We just wanted to know we had a next day.
Wow, that must have at 17 too. That must have been something. Damn. Um, well, what was your first impression of the soldiers entering? I'm sure you might have heard from either, I guess, your family of them entering the city, or even you might see them yourself. So, what do you think was the general response to that from the other citizens? How did you feel about it? How did even your family feel about it?
Boy, they did. No one liked it one bit. Like, who are these guys that are trying to they're trying to disrupt our way of life? Who are these guys? That was everyone else was thinking. Me personally, wide-eyed 17-year-old, what may it be? I was curious. It sounds weird, but they had weapons and technology that I had never seen before. I had never even thought of before. This was serious stuff. The chopper overhead was larger than life, to say the least, and I had never seen anything like it. It was almost like alien tech. Um, the militias saw them as enemies and made it worse for all of us. When the soldiers' operations led to innocent people getting hurt, anger and fear spread throughout the city, and it it felt like we were just a small part of a bigger equation, but it didn't feel small to ourselves. Like, as in, what I'm trying to say is like we were stuck between two forces, which was Adid's men and the U.S. soldiers, and neither of them cared about our safety.
Wow. That, that's crazy. Just going through all that. So, what kind of violence did you witness during the battle in specific? Because already, like you said, it's already crazy. But how has it affected you, like over the years?
Oh my God. It was life-changing stuff. It's stuff that you'll never be the same as before you saw it. And that's why I'm so thankful that I was able to find a home in the United States, free from all of the noise, really. But back then, bodies in the streets, people running for their lives, buildings were blown apart. I watched as the helicopters hovered, firing into crowds, militias shot from the alleyways. Once I saw a man try to pull someone to safety, but he was hit, and that was it, right there. It's burned into my memory. Uh, Even now, it's hard to escape. Like, loud noises still make my heart race, and sometimes I wake up in a cold sweat thinking about worse days. I try to survive. I try to focus on the fact that I survived, but it's no easy task. It didn't just claim the lives of those in the war. It claimed the humanity of the ones that made it out, really.
Mm. With, all this trauma that you carry, with all of the sights that you most definitely should not have seen, especially at such a young age, um, do you think that the intervention was like meant to help? Do you think it caused more harm than good? And I guess what's your view, I guess, right now after all of it has happened on the role of the U.S. and other foreign forces in not just your country, but in like other countries which have similar struggles?
The US viewpoint is difficult. I understand to some degree how they thought that they were trying to help, but ultimately their actions were selfish. They were selfish, and they weren't, it wasn't as much to care about us. It was to make themselves feel like they were caring. And it was not appreciated by our city. Uh they came to bring food and aid, and people were starving, and some of us were hopeful that they might stop the violence that was present before. But their presence ultimately made things worse. There's no way around it. And when they went after a deed, uh, and every neighborhood suffered. Uh, they came with their own plans and left us to deal with their mess. So, uh, while what they say their intentions were good, they really caused more harm than anything.
Wow. It's interesting to hear from Somali's perspective. It's drastically different from any sort of American
Well, yeah,
perspective.
I see what you mean in talking about that, Jimmy.
Uh, So after the battle, how was life? Like, was anything particularly different? Did anything in Somalia actually change?
In the years that I was still there, life really didn't get any better. I think it got a heck of a lot worse. The city was in ruins, first of all, and I mean violence between groups, factions, they wouldn't stop. So the militias were still in control. They were still spreading fear. Uh, they were fighting. For us, it felt like nothing had changed, except for the fact that some people were no longer with us. And for me, life was never the same. As I stated before, the fear is something that will stay with me. Uh, you never truly feel safe after experiencing something like that. So, the battle ended, but the chaos did not. And I mean, before they came, it was chaos. During it, it was the worst of it. And after they left it in shambles.
All right. Thank you for, having to for like sitting here answering our questions and unfortunately having to, well, thankfully actually opening up to us about,
Of course,
all of your unfortunate trauma. Um, that brings us to the end
we both.
of today's episode. We hope that, everybody who's listening has gained a better understanding of today's topic. You have to remember, the world is always changing, and it's important to stay informed and look at other perspectives and to think critically about these issues, past issues that shape our lives. Hearing stories from all sides gives us a reminder that history is about the people. It's about their struggles and their resilience. Make sure to subscribe, share this episode with your friends, and leave us a 5-star review. We'd love to hear any other thoughts on today's conversations. Don't forget to tune in next time. We'll dive in on another compelling topic and explore the complexities of other global affairs. Until then, thank you very much, and thank you for listening to WTF is a Kilometer.